Everyone, we're back with some more information on ancient Rome. Today's topic is going to be the Roman Republic. Last time we talked about the birth of a republic, so today we're going to break down a little more in depth what exactly a republic looks like. Starting off, a republic has a two-class system. There are the patricians, which were the wealthy landowners, nobles. They were Rome's ruling class. Then we have, and I've seen or heard this word pronounced three different ways. I've heard plebeians, I've heard plebeians, and I've heard plebeians. Again, I personally don't care how you pronounce words as long as you can recognize it and know what it means. That's what's important. The plebeians were artisans, shopkeepers, and owners of small farms. Slaves did exist as well, but they're not going to be their own class. Both patrician and plebeian men were citizens. That means they had the right to vote, they were responsible for paying taxes, and they had to serve in the army. Plebeians had less social status. Marriage between the two classes was forbidden, and plebeians also could not hold public office. A tripartite government. So this is going to break down what specifically the republic in Rome looked like. So a tripartite means that it has three parts. One group is going to run the government, one group is going to make the laws, and one group is going to act as judges. Hopefully this sounds a little familiar because this is going to be exactly what our government is like today. We have one group that runs the government, that would be the executive branch, one group that makes the laws, which would be the legislative branch, and one group that acts as judges, which would be the judicial branch. There is going to be a system of checks and balances in place that keeps one group from having too much power. Essentially, all three of those groups have to agree in order for something drastic to happen. The top officials in the Republic were consuls. So the top official in the United States is the president. The top official in the Roman Republic was the consul. There were two of them chosen every single year. So obviously we have presidential elections every 4 years, but the consuls were chosen every single year, and they had to be patricians. Consuls were the head of the army. They ran the government, and they had the power to veto one another. That means both of them had to agree. Veto stands for I forbid. And the purpose of that 1-year term was to prevent consuls from abusing their power. If a consul was terrible and they were greedy and they were just doing things for themselves, 1 year goes by and they're not reelected. Praetors are going to interpret the laws. They act as judges in court. Various people would keep tax records, supervise festivals, and a variety of other things. The Senate is going to be the most important lawmaking body. The Senate in the Roman Republic is very, very similar to the Senate that we have today. The Senate in the Roman Republic had 300 patrician men, and they would serve for life. At first, they just advised the consuls, but they're going to see their power increase as time goes on. By 200 BC, the Senate could propose laws, hold debates, and approve programs. So far, have we talked about the plebeians having the ability to do anything? No. The government is being dominated by patricians or the upper class. The Assembly of Centuries, that is going to be the group that elects consuls and praetors. They passed laws as well, and they were under the control of the patricians. The vote was similar to the electoral college that we have today. Some of you may not know how our presidential elections work. Some of you might, which is awesome. But just to give you a really, really brief description of how it works, it's not just whoever gets the most votes wins. There have actually been 5 times when the person with the most votes does not win, including 2 times since the year 2000. So it has affected us pretty recently here with those 2 elections. So here's how our presidential elections work. If you take a look at this map, you're going to see all 50 states have a number next to them, and the numbers are all different. Each state is given a number based on their population. So the higher the population, the higher the number. So if you look at a state like California, they have 55. Texas is over 30. Florida is almost 30. New York is almost 30. They have the largest populations. They have the largest electoral votes. Then there are some states, you look at Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, that are at 3. Delaware is at 3. New Hampshire and Rhode Island have 4. So there are some states that have very few electoral votes. So basically what happens here is as the election is happening, each of the candidates is winning various states. So if you win Ohio, you get 18 electoral points. Or if you win Illinois, you get 20 electoral points. And the goal is to get to 270 electoral points. Whoever gets to that number is then the president. Plebeians were upset with their status in society. They were paying taxes just like the patricians were. They served in the army just like the patricians were, but they could not hold any public office. So they were doing all of the same things as the patricians, but they weren't given any of the benefits that they were. So in 494 BC, many plebeians went on strike. They refused to serve in the army, and they decided that they were going to leave the city to go set up their own republic. Patricians took notice and agreed to share power. So really quick, to put this into some perspective, plebeians made up probably about 90% of the population, which would also mean that they made up like 90% of the military. So if all of a sudden you were in danger of losing 90% of the military, your military wouldn't be very strong. So the patricians realized that they need the plebeians. So in 471 BC, the plebeians set up their own body of representatives called the Council of Plebs. The Council of Plebs would elect tribunes. They brought plebeian concerns to government attention. Tribunes could veto government decisions, so they had the power of veto just like a consul would. By 455 BC, plebeians and patricians could get married, and by the time we get to the 300s BC, plebeians could be consuls. So in a pretty short amount of time, plebeians go from having basically no say in the government whatsoever to being able to hold the highest office in the republic. Now, does that mean that a lot of plebeians were elected? No, because it's still going to be swayed by money and wealth, but they at least did have that ability to reach that position. In 287 BC, the Council of Plebs could pass laws for all Romans, not just plebeians. All male citizens were seen as equals, although wealthy patricians still held most of the power. Women still had no voice in government. A Roman dictator is going to serve the people with absolute power. So even though we have this republic, there are going to be times when a dictator would rule Rome. A dictator is going to rule on a temporary basis during emergencies. So if there was a war breaking out, or if there was some type of threat, the Senate would choose a dictator, and then that dictator would give up their power when that danger was over with. The best known early dictator was Cincinnatus. He was appointed dictator in 460 BC when an enemy had surrounded a Roman army. Cincinnatus was a farmer, and he was found plowing his fields. He stopped immediately, gathered his army, and they were off to go help this army that had been surrounded. They defeated the enemy quickly. They returned back, and 15 days later, he gives up his power. So he went from being a farmer to having the most power in the Roman Republic to being back farming in a 2-week stretch. George Washington was inspired by Cincinnatus, so this is a little bit more present day. Washington was also a farmer, and when he was asked to head the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War, he went off, won, and afterwards, many people believe that he immediately became the president, but that's not the case. He actually returned to his farm before becoming the first president of the United States. That is it for the notes. And we will have a few more to go in this chapter. I believe the next one will probably be the Punic Wars.